join me. Let's do some art.
So let me show you what I will be working with today. First of all, I have this vintage card shuffler. Actually, my daughter picked it up for me, knowing that I could use it somewhere in my art. It's mostly made out of metal, so a bit heavy. And then I have this very cheap plastic toy dragon. It has wings, as you can see. It has front arms that move slightly, and I will take this fellow apart so I can combine it with my card shuffler in order to create a hybrid for this month's 4-core challenge. Now, this toy was actually stronger than I had anticipated, so I had to use a saw for the two major cuts. After I opened it, I was able to unscrew the wings and also the legs, but the main body I had to saw apart, and I won't use the middle section, just the head with his front legs and of course the tail. Right now the edges are a bit rough, so I will use some sandpaper to smooth it out before I glue these pieces down using my E6000 glue. So in order for these things to dry in just the right position, I secured them using some balloons. These are like strong elastic bands that work really well for this purpose. Now while this dried, I started working on the legs. I had to open them up and remove the attachment and also the wheels beneath the feet. Now they're nice and flat, and they will also be part of my assemblage. And again, I secured them during the drying process, this time using some G-clamps and a couple of pens just to keep a distance from the little knob on the side. Now, even though I used really good glue, I want to make sure these things don't come apart. So I use simple cheesecloths and some Mod Podge to create a connection between the plastic and the metal. And it really dries very hard and makes it very secure. And also it gives me some nice texture. So I believe that by now you should have a pretty good idea where I'm going with this thing. So I think it's a good time to turn you over to some music. I will, like always, add all the mediums or anything you need to know in the captions. Now, this is, of course, my contribution to this month's challenge. And when I'm done with my process, there will be the lineup of all of your entries. And then, of course, at the end of the video, I will also give you the new challenge for the month of March. Now, my project here got quite involved. It took me a while to complete it. You will see lots more steps, lots more details, but all of the process is very easy for you to follow. Now, even though I edited out all the repetitious stuff, you're not missing anything important. Everything is here, and I hope you will enjoy watching me work on this. And I will talk to you as soon as this thing is done. So here is my assemblage. I completed the hybrid. It took me several days before I was done. He has lots of details, and of course I want to show some of them to you one more time. Now, while I was working with him, I made sure not to interfere with the mechanism of the card shuffler. So hopefully he will work for me now. Let's take a look. There we go. Yep. So it works just perfectly, even though this machine is quite old. It's from the 60s. So these cards need to go in here smoothly, and that's one reason why I did not paint those trays. I also was careful not to get glue or paint on these rollers. But I did give it a name. I added a label inside this metallic holder, and Meet Drake Ace. I think it fits him really well. Drake for dragon, of course, and ace, well, it relates to a card shuffler, to card games, and also he has 2 ace charms, one on either side of his neck. So let me give you a close look at his head. As you saw, I added lots of jewelry bits. I kept it more in a symmetry, so both sides are the same. It also has some keys and some gears. I changed the shape just slightly by adding a beard. I also added an extra horn, accentuated that one. At the end, I added the 3 unpainted bits of jewelry with the bright red stones, and he has another one here on his chest, again with the red stone. The arms still move a little bit. There are some gears here, there are some springs. Yeah, he is pretty highly decorated. Now, I did have to do a bit of touch-up after he was all painted. I had to redo his eyes, which also got a little bit of glossy accent just to make him shine. I did color up his teeth just a bit to make them not look so plastic and pearly white. So that's him. Then now let's go to the side. The mechanism here, that turns well with the face and the gears going from large to small. Now you notice that I kept the machine part, so to speak, in this gold bronze copper color, whereas the rest of his body is green. And I took several layers in order to get to this result. And the glimmer mist I sprayed in the very beginning is still visible in all the crevices. Now, glimmer mist is not permanent, but the other mediums I used acrylic paints and also my waxes. They're dry, permanent, and nothing comes off on your finger. So I kept the wings very simple. They are nicely textured, but I wanted them to stay light so I could attach them safely. Here I have all kinds of random bits, lots of charms and little broken jewelry pieces. There's a shuffle, there is a fish, there's an ice cream, there's a snowflake, there's a butterfly, a key, and so on. Now, when I got to the legs, I used bigger pieces of jewelry that had just the right bend, and I had multiple of them, so I made the leg on the other side exactly the same. So here is a close-up look at the leg and the rest of the doodads. So let's go to the other side. So this leg was decorated the same way, although I positioned it differently just to give the whole piece a bit more interest. Here again we have random pieces in the background. There's a skull, there's a mummy face, there's an octopus, a palm tree, there's a rainbow, a bird, and so on. So here you can see, and then of course I added the window, and I opted for the shiny red to complement the red on his head. So here's one more close-up. And then of course we have the inside, which I kept very plain, but there is some texture from the cheesecloth, and there are 2 more casts, one on each side. I hope you can see it like this. And then there is a tail. I kept it simple. It has a chain going around and just these components that accentuated the bumps that were there originally. He also got a new tip. And then here at the end, I also added another cast. This one has a keyhole, and of course there is a key that is slightly hidden behind his leg with a chain, and you can open the imaginary door and it can live right there. There's another little skull, and I think that's pretty much it. Oh, I cleaned it up underneath by adding some leather under the feet and also on these little runners, because they were a bit sharp as the machine is old, and I wanted it to be smooth so I wouldn't scratch any surfaces it might sit on. So that's it. Here is my hybrid. I'm all done, and I'm really done. I'm going to stop talking and I will turn it over to your lineup with all of your wonderful entries. Enjoy, take your time, look at all the details, and I will be back with you right after. Now, I am sure all of you enjoyed this lineup just as much as I did. I received so many great photos of wonderful creations, some crazy ideas, far out ideas, and all of them very inspiring. And it's really fun to see them all together in one place. So thank you very much to all of you artists who participated, and of course I hope that you will join in again in this month's challenge. Now, if you're new to the challenges, please just go below in my description box, follow the link, and there you will find all the details you need to play along. So let's get started with our March 4-Core Art Challenge. Now, for this month we will not have a theme, but rather we will all be working on or with something very specific, and that is a paintbrush. I figured that all of you have paintbrushes in your stash and that you might not mind to sacrifice one for the sake of art. Or maybe you have one that needs recycling. So this is a great project for it. Of course, brushes come in all kinds of sizes. I pulled out some big ones, and of course you can find even bigger ones, especially if you search out some handyman brushes or brushes you use for painting walls. They often have caked paint on it, and that makes them even nicer to work with. So again, you can work either 2 or 3 dimensional, it's up to you. If you work 3 dimensional and you choose a large brush, the brush could become your substrate. So you could decorate it, you could paint it, you could add things to it, fibers, fabric, beads, recycled bits and bobs, jewelry, chain, you name it, and make it your own, make it unique, make it different, and make it something special. And of course, the brush could also be part of something bigger. It just all depends how far you want to go into the 3-dimensional realm. Now, if you prefer to work 2-dimensional, you may want to go with some of the smaller brushes. These can be easily added to a painting or a collage. They can be glued down and become part of your image, whatever you may be creating. So altogether, you can use as many brushes as you like, but make sure that you have at least one real brush, not a painted one, not a collaged one, but a real one in your project. So that's the brushes. That was part 1. Now part 2, we will all include 2 identical something. It could be something 3-dimensional, again depending on your project. I have bottle tops, I have game markers, I have thimbles, I have some glass cabochons, I have a couple of chess pieces, and so on. But you could also add identical images. You could stamp them like these 2. You could find them to collage like these identical butterflies. Playing cards are identical on the back. Or maybe you like to work with ephemera. There are identical receipts, there are some tickets, and so on. There is really no end of identical things you could add. And of course, if you are a painter, you can paint identical things. So all that would work. So that's part 2. Part 3, we will all add something that moves. Now, we've done this before, but usually it was with the 3-dimensional project. And of course, it's quite easy to do it in something like that. It's easy to dangle something or add something that turns and opens and so on. And please do, please add something that moves. But I want to explain a little bit what you could do if you work 2-dimensional. If you have a paper brad like this, that gives you one possibility of attaching things either to your canvas or your substrate. And then it would still turn. Even if just in a subtle way, that's okay. Just something that turns. You could add a tiny little charm somewhere. You could use a little metal to attach it, or string. Buttons, or this is a butterfly button, could work if you make the string long enough so it still has a little room to wiggle. You could add tags any size you want. They could either be part of the image you create or just add to some mixed media project in a fun way. So the decision is really up to you, and I'm sure you can come up with more things that you could add that could move. Part number 4 would be to add a color splash, some contrasting color somewhere on your project. I am sure you have seen that done in abstract paintings or any paintings for that matter. Different projects benefit from some bright color somewhere. So what color you use, it really depends on what color the rest of your project carries. So it should be something that is completely different, something that contrasts with the color, the major colors you've already used. So let's say you do some in pastels, you could add some very bright pink, even neon, or this is glitter paint somewhere, or there's some bright orange ink, normal acrylic color. It just all depends what your project look like. And of course, these don't cover large areas. They're usually just a color splash somewhere, something that is bright, something that draws attention and that we can see and that our eye is drawn to. So that's it. I think those are the 4 core elements. We work with or on some paintbrushes. We add 2 identical items. We create something that moves, even if just slightly, and we give it a color splash. I think this should be a fun project. I think all of you liked the last one, and I really hope you like this one too. So I can't wait to get all of your photos. Like always, you have all the way until the end of the month to send them to me. And for your convenience, there will be a list of the 4 core elements at the end of this video, as well as in my description box. So if you have any questions, please just ask me either in the comments or write me an email. I always love to hear from you. And I think that's all I had. So thank you very much for coming today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment. It's always nice to get a reaction. And I will see you really soon. In the meantime, stay well, stay creative, and bye-bye for now.